Welcome to the Kindle Chronicles, the Friday podcast all about your Kindle. I'm Len Edgerly. This is the show for September 15th, 2017. Greetings from Ocean Park, Maine, where the waves are the same as ever, but the beach that I'm standing on here is in post-season mode. Just very few people out on the beach, and they're protected from the wind by windbreaks. And it's pretty quiet out here. It's a decent day, but it's a little chilly. The hotels in Old Orchard Beach, just up the way here, are closing up for the winter. Winky the Whale, the Crop Duster, and the Grand Orient Funhouse, and the rest of the rides are all closed at Palace Playland. I really love it when the greasy fun of summer gives way to the crisp, calm days of fall here in southern Maine. Darlene and I will be here longer than usual this year, well into October, before heading back to Cambridge. Let's head back up to the cottage now so I can tell you about this week's show. I am putting the show together a day earlier this week on Thursday because tomorrow I will attend an all-day social media conference in Portland. It's called Agents of Change, organized each September by a savvy local media practitioner and podcaster, Rich Brooks. I always pick up useful tips and I meet motivated people at these events, so I look forward to tomorrow's Agents of Change. I am also looking forward to seeing where the next Amazon Books brick-and-mortar device and bookstores will open next. The Boston metro area has 2 of the 11 current stores, one in Linfield and one in Dedham. That's nice, but I would love to see one of these innovative Kindle-friendly emporiums open up in Cambridge or downtown Boston, and, of course, maybe Denver. My guest this week, Jennifer Cass, no doubt knows which locations will be announced in the coming months, but as Vice President of Amazon Books, the physical stores unit, she did not let anything slip about future plans in this week's interview. She did, however, have lots to say about what Amazon has learned so far from the stores and how customers are reacting.
We would like people who want physical books to walk out with a book, but if you walk out of our store and you found 3 things to put on your wish list and 2 books that you want to buy for your Kindle, then we're very, very happy.
First up in news, let's take another look at coverage of HQ2, Amazon's tantalizing $5 billion project to create a second corporate headquarters somewhere in North America. I have seen stories that tout Toronto, but my guess is that the current political climate in the U.S. will favor locating in a U.S. city. The New York Times did a careful analysis of the criteria Amazon has announced for its decision, and the winner of the winnowing was Denver, Colorado. In addition to Denver, the top 4 locations in the Times analysis were Boston, Portland, Oregon, and Washington, D.C. Boston is getting quite a bit of ink in the think pieces about HQ2. Bloomberg reported on September 12th that Boston is pulling away in the bid for the headquarters. Here is audio from a video piece on why.
So Spencer Soper, who is the main Amazon reporter, and I have been looking at Boston for quite some time, and we've been closely tracking. There has been a lot of job posting activity there on Amazon's website, and really high-level talent, mainly in facial recognition and voice activation technology, which is something that Amazon is pursuing aggressively right now, as you know, through the Echo and its Amazon Go store, which is this new retail concept that actually recognizes your face when you go into a store so that you don't even have to check out. So it's really a no-brainer that they would want to go to the Boston area because of the talent pool that is there. You have MIT and Harvard.
A no-brainer? I'm not so sure. The Bloomberg article did quote senior unnamed Amazon executives as advocating Boston for the new headquarters. The company, in an email to Bloomberg, denied that any city has an advantage yet, saying, "We are energized by the response from cities across North America who have already reached out to express their interest. There are no front runners at this point. We are just getting started with the process." In addition to the Boston benefits that I mentioned last week, Bloomberg notes the acquisition in 2012 of Boston-based robot maker Kiva Systems for $775 million. Also, MIT recently announced a major breakthrough on voice-activated technology that could be of interest to Amazon for Alexa. Nuance, a pioneer in voice recognition, is also based in the Boston metro area. Alexa, how many days until October 19th?
Thursday, October 19th, 2017 is 35 days from today.
All right, that's how much time is left before the deadline for applications. We won't know until next year who wins the HQ2 sweepstakes. Next in news, I was intrigued by a piece in Variety that quoted an Amazon Music executive linking Alexa with a new chapter in streaming music. The executive was Alex Luke, Amazon Music's global head of programming and content strategy, and he spoke at Variety's Entertainment and Technology Summit last week. The strategic struggle shaping up seems to be between Amazon's use of Alexa and the heavily visual interfaces that have enabled Spotify and Pandora to gain audience on smartphones. An example of Amazon's innovation in music streaming is last month's introduction of playlists driven by specific activities, from cooking to running. Luke said, "We try to contemplate every way a consumer might ask Alexa or Echo for music." So here's some that have been contemplated so far that we can try. Alexa, play music for cooking.
Here's a playlist for cooking music. Cooking with Classical from Amazon Music.
One composer, Joseph.
Alexa, play music for the beach.
Here's a playlist for beach music. Earbud Vacation, Jamaica from Amazon Music.
Well, you get the idea. I can imagine personal playlists that Alexa might create based on her knowledge of my schedule. This is sort of, down the road future gazing. But if it's Friday and I'm working on a show, which I usually am on Friday, I might say, Alexa, play music for Podcast Mountain. That's what I call the weekly job of getting the show out to you. I love the creativity of this development and how Amazon is so quick to make connections among its rapidly evolving capabilities. Music and voice commands, that looks like a huge area of opportunity, especially when you think of Alexa and cars. I'm wondering if you can think of other categories that Amazon should be creating for Alexa, music based on activities. This is really sort of an endless parlor game that we could be playing. If you've got ideas, you could email them to me at podchronicles@gmail.com. Finally, in news, Amazon's patent for one-click purchasing expired on September 11th. The patent, which listed Jeff Bezos as one of its inventors 20 years ago in 1997, became one of the most disputed patents of the Internet age, Monica Nicholsberg wrote in a post at GeekWire. Barnes & Noble tested it and was forced to settle after Amazon sued. Apple decided against going head-to-head with Amazon and in 2000 licensed the technology, which led to a pair of quotes from the late Steve Jobs and Bezos. Jobs said, "The Apple Store has been incredibly successful, and now we're taking it to the next level. Licensing Amazon.com's one-click patent and trademark will allow us to offer our customers an even easier and faster online buying experience." Jeff Bezos' quote was more concise. He said, "Apple has a long history of innovation, and we're extremely happy to work with them." NPR reports that Microsoft, Google, and Facebook are considering creating internet-wide one-click ordering between sites. At Amazon, I think most of us have learned how to use one-click buying carefully. I seldom make mistakes buying things. I know I've got mine set up mainly for Kindle buying, and I don't do much one-click buying on anything other than Kindle books. As this technology spreads, caution is probably going to be a good idea to avoid buying stuff that we don't intend to buy quite just yet with one click. For the tech tip, I want to tell you about a session I had today helping my sister Stephanie set up her new Echo show. She's decided she'd like to join the family network that I get started with my parents. And I did some thinking as to how to have this be a good experience for her to get set up. A couple of things that I learned that I'll pass along if you're helping a friend or a family member set up an Echo show so that you can drop in on them and have that kind of a connection. Make sure that they have their Amazon username and password handy, and also the password for the Wi-Fi system that they're going to use at the home. The setup was pretty easy. I set up a FaceTime session, and I suggested that Steph use her partner Tim's iPhone to record the FaceTime so she could show me what was on the screen of her iPhone, which we're using the Alexa app to set up the show. And that get a little awkward. You had to get the screen brightness right so I could actually see her iPhone. The part that takes place on the show, once you plug it in, was quite simple. It walked her through logging into Amazon and then logging into her Wi-Fi network. The part that was a little more challenging was to figure out how I'm referred to in her address book on her phone, and therefore how do I appear on the list of contacts so that we could set it up so that I can drop in on her account. And then similar complexity with how my parents are referred to. So the naming conventions, I think, are one of the most challenging parts of setting up a network. But we did get it figured out, and she's pretty happy to be able to have this new way to connect with the family. Time now for the interview. Jennifer Cast was among the earliest employees of Amazon from 1996 through 2001 when she left for some personal reasons, which you'll hear about. And she returned to the company in 2014 to lead the launch of Amazon's surprising foray into brick-and-mortar bookstores. Her title is Vice President of Amazon Books, and I reached her on Tuesday of this week, September 12th, in Seattle. I began by asking her to compare the opening of Amazon's very first books and devices store in Seattle on November 3rd, 2015, with the more recent opening about 2 weeks ago of the 11th Amazon bookstore located at 34th Street in New York City.
Well, the first opening, it was our first store. It was Amazon's first physical store. So we were full of questions, full of excitement and full of questions. Now, obviously, we're an Amazon bookstore, and so our mission is to be the most customer-centric book and device store on the planet. And so our biggest questions had to do with customers. Would they like the store? What would they think of the books being faced out with a review under every book? Would they enjoy seeing the Kindles next to the books? I mean, everything that we had put together in the store, we had done very thoughtfully and with a lot of many times a lot of analysis, but we were really, really curious as to whether customers would like it. So it was thrilling to see customers' response. And we stood around that University Village bookstore talking to customers, listening to customers, and absolutely thrilled that their response was incredibly positive. They told us how much they loved the store. They wrote us lots and lots of emails telling us what they liked and why they liked it. And I think for us, what was so exhilarating was that we realized that we were going to have a chance to do it again, that we got to build more stores because customers liked it. Then at our 34th Street opening, it was our 11th store, so it's been 22 months since that first launch, I think maybe 21 months at that point. And so, it's funny, it is still thrilling in a bit of a different way because it's not the first time thrill, but it's thrilling because every store is a different neighborhood and a different location. It's so different from online in that way. And so you're getting to know a new group of people who either live or work near there or vacation near there. And so you still have some of the same questions. What will they think? Will they like it? Will they find books they love? Will they like our associates? What we do know after the 11th one is we know a lot about what they like. So we've learned an incredible amount. We've gotten a lot of feedback. We've made a lot of improvements. What we found in terms of our book selection is that customers love the fact that in these smaller spaces, all of the books are great books and that we're a customer-focused, kind of for customers, by customers, with the help of our curator team. And so they love that the books are all 4 stars. They love that the books are face out. We call them features, but we have themes on tables or shelves. And what they've let us know is that they love the themes that tap into the information we have about what people read, why they read, and even how they're reading. And so as we've taken this information, we've improved our features, we've made some changes to the way that the store is set up. And so we went into this last store opening with more confidence, but the experience is still just as thrilling. We still clap the time, when the first customer comes in the door. The first customer on this one, I think, had a golden retriever, which was super fun. So it's just really exciting.
Well, now, when you said that part of the excitement on that first store in Seattle was pretty quickly gauged on the reaction, knowing that there would be a second store, that the experiment would continue. Was it really conceivable at that point that those first few folks in the door hated it so much that would have been the first and last Amazon bookstore? Well,
so those of us involved in this business at Amazon, we love books. A bookstore is my favorite date night. I've been to, anytime I go to a city, I go to a bookstore. And so we knew enough about bookstores to believe that we were creating something that would be, a wonderful way to discover books. Our mission is to be a great place for customers to find and discover books they'll love. We were all about, let's focus on discovery. So we didn't think they'd hate it. But the difference between hating it and thinking, meh, there's a big difference in terms of whether you want to continue to introduce people to this across, different cities and build a team. That first store, we opened with a smaller team. And then as we were deciding that, as we were learning about customers' reactions and as we were seeing, I wouldn't say like customers ran through the door and we knew immediately, because we knew that there'd be a lot of interest in Amazon's first physical store. So we knew that we needed to let the dust settle and see how we did over the holidays and listen to actual customers' responses. We have developed different mechanisms to get feedback, and one of them is a survey, and people give us comments and they rate us. And so, after a few months of looking at the ratings, we were pretty confident that customers liked it, that we were doing what we wanted to do, which was putting good books in the hands of people who would love them, and also putting our devices into the hands of people who would love them, and that we'd get another chance to do it again, at least several times to see how that went. It's continued to go very well.
Is it as much of an experiment now after 11 stores as right from the start? At some point, it seems like you transitioned from an experimental questioning mode to actually building out a chain of bookstores.
I wouldn't call it an experiment anymore, but what I would say is that we are very, very actively experimenting and learning, but then that's no different from any other Amazon business. If you're trying to be customer-centric and continue to innovate on behalf of customers, and especially in this space, I shouldn't say especially, because every business is very focused on learning and experimenting and improving at Amazon, but there's so much that we can integrate into our physical space from Amazon.com. And as we learn what customers like, and as we think about how to increase the value of the store to them, we just experiment a heck of a lot. But I wouldn't call it an experiment anymore. I would say we are experimenting.
Right. You mentioned an interesting distinction between online and physical that I hadn't thought of, namely that in a physical store you're dealing with customers from a specific neighborhood, whereas online that's not so much of a factor. Are there other big distinctions between selling in physical stores versus online that have emerged as you've looked into the experience of these 11 stores?
Oh, there are many, 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 many. But I would say, coming from the online world, when you nail bookshelves into a floor, when you bring electricity up through the floor to serve a table, you can't move it a foot. And so, we're testing, but you can't at Amazon.com. If there's a misspelling on a word, you can change it very, very quickly. And if you've printed a sign, we're dealing with physical world time, and we're dealing with physical material, so more expensive and more, it takes more time if you want to change things. And so, the way that you think about the decisions you make are a little bit different, because, you have, the variables are different. So that, I think that's the main thing. I think also the fact that each store, depending upon where it is, it really serves a certain community. And some of the community includes travelers, for sure, but it's very different that a Seattle customer is going to be very different than a Chicago customer. In some ways, we're all, as people, what you also realize is in so many ways we're the same, but we're learning about the differences. And so, that's one of the really, really exciting things about doing this is how do you make a store? What makes a store responsive to its community? And one way that we've found is your associates who understand the people who understand the selection in the store and can also help give us feedback back in Seattle to help make stores, better for the communities that we're serving.
I was in the Linfield, Mass store on the way up to Maine on this recent trip, and I was thinking about the face-to-face dealings that Amazon now has with me as a customer compared with my long online shopping experience. I suspect that's something that has been central to your learning as to what exactly makes for a successful face-to-face encounter with a customer. And, in this store, I was browsing around kind of purposefully, and although there weren't many customers in the store, the main staff person there gave me plenty of space, and then she seemed to approach me at just about the right time and asked if she could help me. And then I asked a pretty tough question about Echo shows, and if you call someone on an Echo show and they've got 3 shows in their house, how can you tell to go to one specific show? This is an answer I've had trouble getting. I think it's sort of a challenging feature of the show. And she was really smart. She got out her iPhone. She did some searching. She wasn't flummoxed at all by the problem, but I found it to be a pretty effective encounter with that particular staff person. I think she might have been the store manager. But as this goes on through hundreds and thousands of encounters with actual customers, are there any themes or trends that you've learned in these encounters that you're building into the future of the project?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think what it does is it highlights one of the many, but a big difference between Amazon.com online and Amazon Books, the physical store, which is, Amazon.com has a great reputation in customer service, and we do a great job. But it's very, very different when you're face-to-face with a customer, and when it's much more open-ended. Usually on Amazon.com, people are calling because they have a question or a problem. Where's my stuff? Or this is broken. And we're great at solving problems and helping customers on the phone. In the store, what we've, I would say we knew, again, many of us spend a lot of time in bookstores and device stores, and we knew that the associates were going to be a very important part of our business. We knew that to delight customers, part of the customer experience needed to be that our associates would be great listeners, and they would be really smart and knowledgeable, and they would be passionate about books and devices. I think what we learned was it's even more important than we had emphasized in kind of our early thinking, that people love to serve, that people love that they're curious about their customers, and they want to help them, and they're good readers of people. So, if you seem very purposeful when you come in the store, we want to make sure we're there and able to help you. But if you want to browse and you don't want us to be interacting with you, we want to be able to give you the space you want. But if you're kind of wandering around the device section, not really sure how to engage, curious but not quite sure how to get in there, and maybe a little embarrassed, like, what do I do with this thing? Yeah. We want to be able to read that and in a really gracious way invite you to talk about what you're interested in. And so it takes a lot of interpersonal skill. And I think realizing that, and then one of the surprises has been just how many incredibly memorable, touching experiences our associates have had with customers who come in with, it's the daily joy of being able to help someone find a book. You love books. You love to say, what are you reading? And then you find what they've read and you suggest something that you think can bring them joy or help in some way. That is a daily joy. But when recently a woman came in who was in a wheelchair, and she had to use an assistive device to speak, and one of the associates introduced her to the dot. And when she found that she could do something as simple to us as turn on a light or turn on the fan, she was thrilled by a new freedom that she found she could have. And they bought a dot for her wheelchair. And the associate wrote us about it because she was so excited to have helped this person in her life. So we just, we have example after example after example of those that are incredibly meaningful and touching. And then, you get the daily joys. And I don't think we knew that it would be different and it would be, fun, but I don't think we realized just how much joy our associates would get from it if we found the right people.
Yeah, that's fascinating because that online customer-centric has come to mean, at least to me, that I just expect my problem is going to be solved in a really efficient, helpful way. I'm not so much looking for a relationship, although sometimes I'm so grateful that they've solved some problem. I feel like I'm falling in love. But but when you're in the store, it's more of a human-to-human thing. And when you think about how high Amazon shoots for being customer-centric, you almost have a chance to reinvent what can happen between two people in those roles, customer and store clerk. And as you tell these stories, I can imagine that there's an arc there of increasingly emotionally intelligent staff and seeing opportunities to surprise people in that setting the way so many of us have learned to be surprised online.
Yeah, I think, there are many, many stories about those associates who have developed a personal relationship and helped someone, whether it's find books. A woman came in who had a friend with leukemia, and our associate walked her around the store and helped her find books for her friend because she wanted her friend to take her mind off of what she had gotten some really terrible news. But then the associate realized that this woman was going to ship the books to her friend, and she said, you know what, you're going to save a lot of money if I just help you buy it online, because the woman was a Prime member. Huh. And so she had this huge stack, helped the woman buy them, find them online, and ship them home. Good news for us was she also bought some books in the store. Yeah. But we have a lot of, wonderfully touching examples like that. But I think also one of the really interesting things is when you're face-to-face, you can help people understand more about Amazon and other elements of Amazon. And so as we work to understand what customers are interested in, we do experiments to see, hey, would people like this? Do people want to return products in our store? So right now we're doing an experiment in a couple of stores where customers can return items in the store, adding it to one of their options. Do people like that? Well, it turns out, yep, they do. Do people want to, when they buy a device, do they want to work with our home gurus, and are they interested in getting help setting up their smart home when they leave the store? So as we learn more about we take advantage of the many things that Amazon.com offers. It's just a wonderful way to learn more about customers and figure out how we can be of service.
Well, a specific question that I had, because the stores I've been into don't have coffee shops, but I've seen that Chicago, Dedham, and I think 34th Street have coffee shops. What have you learned so far about customers' preferences for being in a store that does or doesn't serve coffee?
Well, people like the option to have coffee. I think when we think about whether we're going to offer coffee, from our very first store, people said, hey, it'd be great if you had coffee and snacks, because a lot of families spend a lot of time in the store in our kids section. And so, a kid who's hungry, if you forgot their snacks, it's great to be able to, there's your face, yeah. It's great to be able to feed them. So we've had requests from that since day one. And then, again, one of the differences between online and the physical stores is, we can do that, but you can't always get the size of space you'd like at a certain location.
Right.
And so some stores are too small. The ones that we've chosen to lease are too small for coffee. And other times you've got great choices all around you, and it doesn't seem like you're going to add much to, customers' experience if right there in the area you've got one. So we take practical considerations into account. Customers love it. And what we found so far is that, again, we have surveys and get inputs from customers in a number of ways. We knew customers would like it because they've been asking for it, but they love it. And, it's not surprising. Coffee and books go together quite well. That's not that innovative.
Yeah, that's right. As I understand it, if you're at a store that you can buy coffee and snacks, you can pay cash for that, but everything else in the stores is sold on a non-cash basis. Is that right?
That's right.
Why is that?
Well, we don't accept cash in the Amazon books stores because right now it's simpler operationally. Mm-hmm. And so that was just a decision that we made early on, and we'll keep considering it. But so far, that's what we've decided to do.
Yeah, it seems kind of appropriate. At first, after I realized there was that difference, it seemed, that's the way it would be for a company that's got such a strong online presence. That the money side of the physical presence would be a little bit more digital.
Yeah, I think you can pay at Amazon. Prime members get the same prices as Amazon.com. So if you're a Prime member, you want to be identified as such so that you can get your discount, which is often substantial. And so one of the ways that people do it very easily is to use their Amazon app. You use your Amazon app and you don't even need to get out your credit card. So we're seeing a lot, very strong adoption of the Amazon app. Most people are using credit cards. And, once in a while people wish, like, my kids get allowance and they can't use their allowance in our store. Occasionally people complain about that, but on the whole, I think hasn't been a big issue.
Yeah. The app I was using at the Linfield store, and it seemed like I had to do about 4 taps on my iPhone to actually scan a barcode on a specific book to find out the price, because I had to open the app and then tap on search, then tap on the camera, and then tap on scan. Do you ever hear people wishing that there was just a way that they could whip out their phone and do one tap after they've got the app going to get a price?
I haven't gotten any feedback about that. I know so we use the main Amazon app in our store, and so that's not development that we control. And so I don't. We haven't gotten any complaints. I guess I'll leave it at that. I haven't heard complaints about it.
Right.
I agree. One tap would be simpler, but I think there are probably a number of things you can do with that scanning, whether it's scanning a package or scanning the front of the cover or the barcode. So I imagine they have their reasons, but I agree that it's probably simpler just to only tap once.
Yeah, it might be a case where, the overall Amazon app does so many different things, but at some point, if you had a store app that you would activate once you walk in the store, it might give you sort of a more streamlined access to the things that people can do in a store.
I agree.
I think one of the things that I love the most in the stores is a 10-year Kindle reader who's also loved books and bookstores. I've always felt when I went into one of my favorite independent bookstores a little furtive if I was seeing a book and then I wanted to buy it on my Kindle. But man, to just walk in that store and be able to buy a Kindle version of some great book that you see, that's a killer app of the stores for someone who's reading all on a Kindle. And I was wondering if you imagine somebody coming to the store who is reading primarily on a Kindle, what other benefits have you built into the store experience for that kind of a customer?
In the store right now, the main benefits for Kindle customers are, if you've got a Kindle and you want to see if you want to upgrade, there's still a lot of people wandering around with Kindles without lights. It's really actually quite amazing that the Kindle's been out for 10 years, but we haven't had a great place for people to be able to compare Kindles and to see the latest and greatest model. Or even not the latest, but one that has different features. And so you can know that if you're a Kindle reader, if you want to see the latest Kindles or ask someone about development on the Kindle, you can always come into an Amazon bookstore and browse. We've actually been surprised by the number of people who are interested in Kindles and interested in just browsing. Or if let's say they have a Voyager, an Oasis, and they have a child, happened to me. I wanted to be able to browse a model that I didn't have to see what was appropriate for my kids. It's very rare, even for me, to see a word I don't know and get up and go to a dictionary, or, if I'm reading my Kindle, then I get to get out my phone. But just to touch that word and get the definition for kids when you're trying to get them ready for their SATs in 6 years.
That's right.
That's a killer app for me. So people love that. I completely agree with you that when we were building this store, one of the things we wanted to do is have people not feel like they needed to be furtive. It seems bizarre to think that you'd need to be furtive, particularly on your own, in the same company's app, but you do. And so what we wanted people to feel very comfortable knowing is that we want you to be able to get the product in the format you want it, the way you want it. And so one of our tenets was that we're agnostic about whether you buy a product in the store, whether you add it to your wish list, whether you ship it home if you don't want to wander around the mall with it in your bag, if you want it for Audible so that you can listen to it as you're commuting, or if you want it for your Kindle. And while you look around the store and you see there are thousands and thousands of books in our store, and it's not just like one copy, so it's showroom. We are selling books. Our business is to be, we want people. It's better for us if people walk out of the bookstore with, well, I shouldn't say that, because it's actually better for us if customers get it the way they want it. We would like people who want physical books to walk out with a book. But if you walk out of our store and you found 3 things to put on your wish list and 2 books that you want to buy for your Kindle, then we're very, very happy. Mm-hmm. And so, specifically other benefits for Kindle readers, what you'll find is associates who can talk to you about Kindle Unlimited and other opportunities that other developments for Kindle. Basically, you can shop and know that we encourage you to buy for your Kindle if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. I remember there was a magazine section in the Seattle store, but I didn't see one in Linfield. What's your current view of the pros and cons of selling magazines at the store?
We evaluate a lot of things. The size of the store is a big one. If it's a smaller store, sometimes magazines just, frankly, there aren't room. We'd rather have more books than magazines. We also think about what other resources customers of that, if it's a mall or a shopping area, have. So if there's a magazine area or magazine store or newsstand close by, we're less likely to prioritize magazines.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Are you set up to do author readings and signing events at the stores?
So far, we haven't developed a program for them. What we've been excited to see is that a lot of authors come in and sign their books just so that customers can have signed books. We will experiment with some readings and some signings. The stores aren't huge. We don't have big open spaces. And so what we have experimented with is readings for kids. So our associates have done readings for kids. I think actually an author came in and did a reading for kids in one of the stores. That's one of the things that the stores themselves are organizing. Some of the stores have people who play guitar and like to sing while they're reading, and they do all sorts of cool things. Sometimes the echo reads and then they sing. So we'll experiment with a lot of things, but we won't have frequent readings where you have 100 people come in a room, because the store isn't really set up for that.
Right. Well, I thought it'd be interesting to close. I've seen you described as a category of Amazon employee called a boomerang, because you worked at Amazon and then you went somewhere else and then you came back. And in your case, you started Amazon in 1996, very early, as director of marketing. What can you tell us about why you left in 2001 and why you returned in 2014?
Well, in 2001, 2 things happened. One, I was pushing 40, and my mom got sick. And what I realized, I loved Amazon. I mean, to say that I loved every single day is probably a bit of an exaggeration, but I love Amazon. I loved Amazon then. The culture fits me like a glove, and I just had a blast building. I love books. I got to launch our music store. I love music. I love digital. I love Amazon. But my mom, we thought she was very sick. It turns out that she got better, which was great. But I took a look at where I was in my life and thought, I'm gay, and I wanted to figure out how to have kids with my now wife. I wanted to give it some thought because it can be complicated, and I wanted to spend time with my mom. So I just decided it was a good time for me to take a little time for myself and figure out kind of what I wanted to do. I'd also gotten a degree in public management when I was in business school, and I'd always known that I wanted to be of service in my community. So I had figured out how to have kids. Now have twin, almost 13-year-old boys.
Great.
I volunteered for 13 years and got involved in starting a school in Seattle and got very involved in the Marriage Equality Initiative and joined some boards and helped lead the fundraising for Ref 74, which was successful, and we won marriage equality here in Washington and was on some arts boards. And so I had a blast doing that, but I really, really missed Amazon. I missed building, and I missed building with people who are like me, who are, I like to have fun, I like to work hard, I'm a little bit of a pedal to the metal kind of person, and I just really love building. And so just after marriage equality passed nationally, Steve Kessel, whom I had worked with before, who is the inventor of the Kindle, said, "Hey, Jeff and I are thinking about starting this business. Would you like to talk about starting a physical bookstore?" And it literally took me 3 days to have a new job.
So the idea was immediately attractive to you, it sounds like.
Oh, yes. I love books. When I was little, I thought I wanted to be an author, and I have so many books, it's embarrassing. So I just thought it would be really, really neat. And I've been a customer of Amazon since probably late '95. So I know the site very well. I love it, and I thought it would be so cool to integrate Amazon.com and the information and the reviews and the ratings and take kind of the best of browsing in a physical bookstore and incorporate that into a store kind of from Amazon. So I was really, really excited about that opportunity.
How are you reading books these days? You've got a unique kind of position because you sell physical books. You started way back with the Kindle and all. I'm picturing a hybrid way of reading books.
You are absolutely right. I'm in the car quite a bit, coming to and from work and traveling, and so actually I'm a big Audible reader right now, Audible listener, but I like to listen when I'm driving or when I'm doing something where I can't read because I prefer to read myself if I can. So I actually am one of those people that probably spends too much money on books. I have bought many books in both physical book, Kindle, and Audible. Lately, I read, what's the one that I just read in The Sheltering Sky, Beneath the Scarlet Sky.
Right, yeah, Mark Sullivan.
I listened to it, yes. I listened to it and I read it on my Kindle with WhisperSync, and I do that a lot.
I have been speaking with Jennifer Cast, Vice President of Amazon's Bookstores Unit. Thanks very much, Jennifer.
Thank you, Len.
That's it for this week. Next week's guest will be Jillian Vorce, a Boston area social media expert whom I noticed is on the program for Agents of Change, the workshop I'll be attending tomorrow. I know Jillian from Boston Media Makers, and we'll sit down with her after lunch tomorrow to talk about her first book, 2020 Mindsight, Refocus, Reignite, and Reinvent Your Life from the Inside Out. That was published last year, and she has 2 books that she's currently working on, including a novel. I will be setting my alarm for midnight tonight. I'm not sure exactly when the new Apple products are going to go on store, but surprisingly, Darlene would like one of those watches that is going to have the LTE capability, and I'll be getting one of those as well. I'm not quite sure I'm going to go for the iPhone 10, but I probably will. Part of my financial calculation is I don't know if I'm going to be traveling some distance if Amazon's going to have some products launch. I need to conserve some of the tech budget rather than wipe it out for an Apple iPhone. So anyway, fun problems to be weighing, but for sure I'll be ordering the watches as soon as the store goes live with the order capability. don't know if you saw that video, but when they made the call from Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino to someone on the team who was on a paddleboard in some lake, and she's just talking to him with her watch, that pretty well convinced me that this is quite a significant advance in the Apple Watch technology, and I love my Apple Watch. Music for my podcast is from an original Thelonius Monk composition named Well You Needn't. This version is Ra Monk by Eval Manigat on the Variations in Time, a Jazz Perspective CD by Public Transit Recording. This is Len Edgerly for the Kindle Chronicles from Ocean Park, Maine. I really appreciate your taking the time to listen to my show. Have a great day. Bye.